This tutorial will go over how to use and access the activity bank provided for SLA facilitators. So starting off from your home Google page, you can head to the SLA Facilitator Resource Hub. You should have this bookmarked. If you don't, I recommend bookmarking it. You should have a link to it in your email. So once you're at the SLA Facilitator Resource Hub, you're going to go to the Planning tab and look at Planning Inspiration. And the activity idea bank is going to be right at the top there, and you can just click that link. It should look like that when you open it up. So if you just click on the activity idea bank link, you are going to have to switch tabs from session plans to activity bank at the top there. So once you are switched over to the Activity Bank log, it's going to look like this. So there are over 80 activities that we have for facilitators to choose from, and they are all organized into these different kind of like categories, depending on what you're going to need for your session. So we have the column labeled activity, which has the name. So some of these are going to look familiar, like Google Forms or Poll Everywhere. So if you are looking for a specific activity, you can just kind of look for it there. But otherwise, you can look at the part of the session that it is most beneficial for. So say you want to do a Jeopardy, a good activity time for that is just during that activity section or during an exam prep. Some like Poll Everywhere are best for openers, or Google Forms are best for closers. So really just where that activity is going to fit most appropriately in your session so that it flows properly. That's what that part of the session is keying into. Obviously, you could do a Kahoot for an opener or a closer or something like that, but a Kahoot really just functions best as an activity, so that's why it has that tag. So our sessions will vary throughout the semester with how many people there are. Most of these say 1 to 20, so really that means that any session can use it, doesn't matter how many people you have. But some of those other activities like a Jeopardy or like a jigsaw activity, those are going to need a little bit more people. You're going to need more of a population to be able to play those with. So we have those different tags there just to be mindful of how many people you probably need in your session in order for that to run in a way that it's fun and entertaining. Work style. So we want there to be mostly interactive activities in SLA. There are going to be some individual work, but if you can turn it into a small group activity, that's ideal. So really just highlighting which activities are going to focus on that group work. After work style, then we have our Bloom's level, and this can be really good for those learning objectives. So say you want your students to understand a concept or you want them to apply them, you might want to focus on different types of activities really to get those skills down so that they're prepared for that exam. Similar with objective, do you want them to be learning a study skill or do you want them to be focused on content? Because remember, SLA isn't all about content. So sometimes it's okay to do an activity that is just developing the study skills or teaching them like this is a good activity to use while you're studying and things like that. So that's how we would use the objective. Subject, so different activities are going to be better for different subjects. So math and specifically like those different sciences, those can be really different from each other in how the content is best approached. Different step-by-step methods may be better for math courses, whereas they may not fit into like psychology or some of the other sciences as well, or worksheets and things like that might work really well for chemistry and for math, but might not work very well for psychology. So we have some of those just things that you should think about with the subject area there. Most activities can be used for any subject though. Activity level. So do you want your students to be sitting? Do you want them to be moving around? If your activity is early in the morning or late at night, you might want to think about like, should this be a super active activity? Do I want them to be moving around a lot? Maybe you have a few activities planned and they're all sitting. Maybe try and fit one in there that has some active movement or some shuffling just to get them back in the mindset of being in SLA and kind of like wake them up a little bit. That kind of aligns with that session time, like I was just saying. And then for planning complexity, so depends on how much time you really have to complete your session. So you might only have a little bit of time, or you might want to put in a few hours into your planning. So that is going to really help out there by just considering how much time you want to put into the planning. Room layout, I mean, some of us are going to have different rooms. Some of us are going to be in lecture halls. Some of us are going to have wheelie chairs. So most activities can work at any room layout, but just make sure you're thinking about that room layout. And then at the end, there are little descriptions of how to conduct each activity, some links to a website if it's needed, and then just step by step how to go through and how to set up one of those activities. And these are available for every activity, even if some of the other information for the other columns are not filled out. So it's always good to just reference that if you need to. So this is a lot of information and it can be broken down very easily depending on your specific goals. So if you go to the filter tab, you can add conditions for different sections. So say you want the people in your session. So say you're looking at your amount of people that you are going to have in your session. So you're going to have a pretty big session. You want to know the ones where it's over 20 students, maybe you are doing an exam review, and you want to see what the best activities are for an exam review. So you have like Jeopardy, pub quiz, jigsaw, scavenger hunt, and that really tones it down to just a few that you can really pick from that are going to be really good for those type of activities. But you can also add in different ones. So you could do like objective, where you want it to be deep in content understanding, and then maybe you want it to also work with um, a specific work style. So you want it to be small group work or large group work. So then you can kind of decide, like, okay, based off of these few goals that I have, based off of how my session is typically running, what activities are going to be best? How do I run those activities and things like that? So this is really what this database is supposed to be used as, is using those filters to help you like decide which activities are going to be best and to really like switch up the activities instead of using the same ones each time. There's also the group filter, which is going to like group the activities based off of the different columns, and then the attributes within that. So if you are looking at it divided up by work style, so at first it's going to be blank because there's some that aren't completely filled in yet. But that's okay. Those like how to do them are still at the end there, even though that didn't get shown in that picture. So this is going to group it up between the different styles of work. So you have individual work or small group work, and so on and so forth. So using the grouping view, some people just might like this better to be able to kind of just like see how the different activities work with each other and just look at the different options for all of the different attributes for different things while also like keeping everything there. So you're not removing anything when you're filtering. You still get all of your options, but it's just organized in a different way. And then sort works as sort would work in any other type of form. It's going to work sort it like alphabetically. So that can also just, it's another view if you're interested in viewing it in that way. That can be super helpful. So yeah. And then another thing that you can do is you can select an activity and um, you can see the entire activity and look at just one at a time, and then you have that description and then all of the attributes for each activity if you just expand it using that little arrow right there. You can also search for activities if you are looking specifically for something and you know that you want it. So say you want to do a Blooket, you can search up Blooket and kind of like see what is happening with there. So BLO, you get Bloom's taxonomy, and then Blooket is up there. So this is one that you can see that there aren't a lot of attributes there, but you can still get that image of how to actually run the activity. So that is a intro over our new activity base that is supposed to give inspiration. If you have any questions, please reach out to your peer mentor or to AJ or to a content lead if you have questions about this activity base.